Hi, welcome back to Westside Kitchen. Today we're going to be preparing French onion soup. The weather's starting to turn cold, and what better meal to enjoy than a hot bowl of French onion soup with some cheese and crouton. It's one of my favorites. So you'll watch in the video me and my wife preparing it, and what the final outcome will be. So stay tuned and enjoy.
Hello. As Dan said earlier, we are making a French onion soup. So an important part of a French onion soup is the bread. I particularly like to do a crostini type bread, so it doesn't really soak up all of that, the flavor of the broth. It makes it really mushy. So at least this gives it some time for it to kind of soak it up, but it still is a little crunchy when you cook it. So I'm using a French baguette that I got from my local bakery. Okay, so now that I've cut the baguettes in about 1/4 to 1/2 inch thick, I lay them on the sheet tray. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a garlic bread crostini that's going to go inside of the French onion soup. So it's going to have a different flavor. It's going to add garlic and salt and other flavors. That's going to be really well, instead of just having just plain piece of bread in there. Okay, so what I have here is I have a roasted garlic oil that I already made previously. So I'm going to use this so it has a lot of flavor and also has the oil incorporated. So the oil and the garlic is going to taste really good, but not overpower when you're making the French onion soup. As well as I have a little bit of Italian seasoning we're going to put on as well. Salt, of course, and we're going to throw some pepper on there as well. I'm going to put it in the oven on 350 degrees for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. So now, starting off with French onion soup, we cut about 10 pounds of onions. It seems like a lot, but once you cook it all the way down and it gets really sweet and stuff like that, you're not going to really have that many onions. No. I'm going to cook these in batches, so when you cook it down, you add more as you keep going. So it caramelizes and stuff like that. It's really nice. If you do it at the same time, it's going to take forever. So what I'm going to do is take some oil, put it in. So I added the onions. I'm going to do a little bit at a time into the stock pot. Just let it cook down. You don't want to do it too high on heat because then it's going to burn. You kind of want it to caramelize. So you want to put it on a low to medium temperature. And it's going to take a while for this to cook down, but it's okay. It's going to be worth it in the end. Okay, so as you can tell, I have caramelized the majority of the onions. So it doesn't even look like a lot. But you want it to be a nice brown color. And you also see that it's on like a little bit of a boil, but more of a simmer. That's also the juices that are coming out, so that's exactly what you want. Now, I'm gonna add in the last of the onions, the garlic, and the thyme. I'm gonna stir this up, and also wait until it gets a really nice brown color. So I do this step by step. Okay, so now that all of the onions, the garlic, and the thyme have sweated down and all the flavors are in, I'm going to add in Lee & Perrins Worcestershire sauce. I pretty much use this in everything. It gives a good dark flavor and it also gives it more of a meaty flavor, and that's kind of what you want with this soup. So we're going to add a little bit, probably about, I don't know, a couple tablespoons. Stir that up a little bit. Okay. And after this, the main ingredient for this, besides the onions to me, is dry sherry. Dry sherry, if you never tasted it, actually tastes like a whiskey kind of. But it actually gives a really good flavor as well to the onion soup. So I like to add probably the entire bottle. You want it to kind of cover the top of the onions. And what you're going to do is cook this down until it's basically dry. So all that flavor, or the alcohol flavor, is going to go right into the onions. Stir, let it simmer until it's pretty much evaporated. Okay, now that the sherry has cooked down with the onions, I'm going to add some salt. Probably like a couple of pinches, I guess. And some black pepper. Stir that around. Get that incorporated. Now I'm going to add in beef broth. So this was 6 quarts. I'm going to let this cook down for probably about a couple hours, checking on it, stirring it, tasting it, adding salt and pepper when I needed to. And when that's done, you'll see how really pretty and rich it looks. Okay, now the finished product of our French onion soup. Okay, so now that our onion soup is done, I'm going to show you how we put it in a bowl and how to dress it so it looks really nice. I like to use Gruyere cheese. It's almost like a pecorino or a Parmesan cheese, which is really good, but it's more like a mozzarella or provolone. Well, speaking of, I also have a mild provolone. You don't want to use anything sharper because the Gruyere cheese is pretty sharp. So I like a surprise of cheese. So I always put a little bit of cheese on the bottom. So I grated the Gruyere for the bottom of the bowl, just like a pinch. Now we're going to come over here. We're going to add in the onion soup into the bowl. Okay. Now I'm going to add in the garlic bread crostini I did earlier, right on top of that. Now I'm going to bring this back over here. I'm going to add more Gruyere cheese on top of the toast crostini, because who doesn't like cheese? I'm going to throw it all in there. Why not? And 1 slice, if you want to, of provolone. And it fits perfectly right on top. I'm going to put it right in the oven on broiler for just a few minutes until it gets nice and bubbly and has brown crust on it. So this is the final product of our French onion soup. It's all melted and nice and brown with the cheese. And I also like to add in garlic bread so you can dip it in so it even tastes better. Thank you for subscribing to West Side Kitchen.